I was lounging by my pool, the sun warm on my face, when she showed up. Dana, self-appointed queen of the neighborhood, president of the HOA, entitlement wrapped in a floral print blouse and wedge sandals. Without so much as a hello, she marched up to my lounge chair and declared her demands like she was addressing a subordinate. I need you to let my kids use your pool, she said, not asked like I owed her something. I didn't even flinch. I looked straight at her and replied calmly, not today. That's it. No drama. No yelling. Just 3 words. But Dana didn't walk away. That would have been too easy. No, she went full meltdown. Her face turned crimson and, in what can only be described as a tantrum fit for reality TV, she pulled out her phone and called 911. I'm calling the police, she said, shaking with indignation. You're denying us access to community property. I blinked. My pool. My private pool. Built with my money on my land. Maintained by me. But according to Dana, this was some kind of public amenity. Cue the sirens. You might think this is fiction. But nope. Welcome to my Lifia life where a fake HOA with real delusions tries to run the block like a 2-bit militia. Oh, and that wasn't even the first time she overstepped. See, Dana had also tapped into my private well to water her over-the-top flower beds without asking. I found out and I flushed the whole thing with sewage. She learned real quick not to mess with what wasn't hers. But that was just a warm-up. I've lived here for nearly a decade. Quiet lot. Well off the main road. Trees block most of the view from the street. I value my privacy. My neighbors mostly do too. We nod, wave, mind our business. But Dana? She came with a mission to dominate every house on the street with rules no one voted for. From the start, she rubbed people the wrong way like she'd memorized a rulebook no one else had access to. The first time she came to my door, it was to tell me my lawn was too rugged. I told her in plain terms where she could put her opinions. But Dana didn't take no for an answer. She always had some policy or regulation to throw at you, even if it was something she made up that morning. She used her self-appointed title as HOA president like it was a sheriff's badge, stomping around like she owned the neighborhood. So when she showed up at my pool that day, arms crossed and ready to commandeer it for her kid's play date, I already knew this wasn't going to be simple. I was polite. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, not today. That's when she exploded. You're refusing my family access to community property, she screamed into her phone. The cops showed up a few minutes later. You could see it on their faces as they stepped out of the cruiser. They were expecting a standard squabble. Dana ran up to them, arms flailing, voice cracking with rage, and pointed at me like I just robbed a bank. He's harassing me, she told them, clearly trying to turn this situation into a crisis. The officers looked from her to me and then back at her again, already piecing together that she was the problem. I stood up and said, officers, it's a private pool. On private property. My rules. One officer gave a small nod, already catching the vibe. But Dana, predictably, doubled down. I'm going to file a complaint. You'll regret this, she shouted. That's when I decided enough was enough. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my card, and handed it to the officer. Chief of Police. City of Andover. Yeah, turns out I'm not just some guy with a pool and a bad attitude. I'm the one who trains the guys who show up when someone like Dana calls 911 for nonsense. The officer read the card, looked back at Dana, and without missing a beat, said, ma'am, you need to leave the property. Now. Dana's face cracked. You could almost hear the snap in her brain as she realized just how badly she'd messed up. She wasn't just dealing with a neighbor anymore. She was dealing with someone she couldn't bully. This isn't over, she hissed as she got in her car. You'll regret this. Oh, I had no doubt. Dana wasn't the type to walk away after being humiliated. But neither was I. Later that evening, I got home and found a letter taped to my front door. HOA letterhead fake or not complete with Dana's signature. She was filing a formal complaint accusing me of denying her family access to shared community property and violating some bylaw about amenity access. I laughed out loud. Threw the letter in the trash without a second glance. But it did get me thinking. Dana was on a warpath because I'd embarrassed her. And if she wanted to escalate things, fine. I was ready to go all in. I spent the next day tidying up everything around my property, making sure the pool was obviously private locked gates, clear signage. Then I dug a little deeper into Dana's HOA activity. Word around the neighborhood was that she'd been skimming funds for months, using HOA money for home upgrades, even paying herself consulting fees. It didn't take long to verify. I gathered documents, bank records, even a few emails. I had the receipts literally. 2 days later, the HOA had one of its regular meetings. Normally, I didn't attend. This time, I showed up early. I wasn't dressed to impress, just jeans, a t-shirt, and confidence. Dana walked in late, like she was expecting applause. She strutted to the front, gave everyone that fake sweet smile, and opened the meeting with a lecture about community pride and respecting shared spaces. I let her talk. Then I stood up, walked right to the front, slid a manila folder across the table toward her. I think you'll want to look through these. The room got quiet. Dana's hands trembled as she opened the folder. Her face paled as she scanned the contents, every questionable transaction, every line item, every forged signature. The other board members leaned in. Whispers turned into full-blown conversations. Dana tried to explain, but the room had turned on her. Someone finally said what everyone was thinking. Is this true, Dana? Her defense fell apart. All she had were excuses, poor ones. The board didn't buy it. One by one, they voted her out. Just like that, Dana was done. But she didn't disappear. Within days, she started whispering rumors, telling neighbors I used my police authority to intimidate her, that I'd sabotaged the HOA, that I was the real villain. Classic Dana, when the power's gone, play the victim. But her smear campaign only made things worse. People were tired of her. Long before I exposed her, neighbors had been quietly suffering under her dictatorship. With the truth out, they felt free to speak up. Dana didn't give up. She filed a formal complaint with the HOA board claiming I'd abused my authority. It was laughable, especially since the board now had all the documents she tried to hide. Still, I decided to be thorough. I compiled every interaction I'd had with her. Neighbors sent me their own statements. I built a case. A real one. Then, in a move so ridiculous it was almost funny, Dana filed a police report claiming I had threatened her and caused emotional distress. She didn't realize what that would trigger. The department took it seriously for about 30 seconds until they reviewed the facts. Then it was my turn. I filed my own report: false claims, misuse of police resources, harassment. I submitted everything to the HOA board as well. The next meeting? That was the final nail in the coffin. Dana tried to make a last stand. She showed up, tried to speak, but this time the room wasn't listening. I stepped forward again, folder in hand, and calmly laid out the newest evidence. Forgery, misuse of funds, false police reports. Dana had no defense left. When the vote came to permanently ban her from any future leadership role in the HOA, it was unanimous. They even recommended legal action. Whether that ever happens, I don't know. But I do know Dana won't be bothering anyone again for a long time. I didn't ask for any of this. I moved here for peace, for privacy. But if someone tries to mess with that, tries to control others through fear, lies, and phony rules, you better believe I'll stand up. Dana learned that the hard way. Yeah? The neighborhood's quiet again. Kids play without fear of being scolded. People wave at each other without suspicion. The pool's mine again, and it's staying that way. As for Dana, she faded into the background, and I, for one, couldn't be happier. Because sometimes peace isn't given. It's earned. And kept.